Welcome to Gritfully, where resilience meets strategy and small business owners get real about what it takes to grow with purpose. In today's episode, we're talking about what it really takes to grow and sustain a small business in today's competitive landscape, from choosing the right business model to surviving the grind of early years to thinking long-term with intention. We'll unpack it all. We'll also dive deep into the Blue Ocean Value Innovation Framework, BOVI, a strategy that helps founders break out of the noise and build with clarity and originality. Our guest today is Willie Mae Veasy, president of Covenant Business Concepts, an award-winning consulting firm specializing in the creation of business accelerators, of which I was blessed to be part of one of them. Centers of excellence she does, and professional development and leadership training. And she established this firm in 2005. Willie Mae is recognized as an accomplished business accelerator designer and enterprise learning professional with 15 plus years of experience in talent management, change management, and business solutions. She possesses special expertise in the development and implementation of innovative business accelerator curricula, blended learning programs, immersion learning, conflict resolution, team building, project management, intergenerational synergy, and virtual learning lessons. All right. Quite an interview.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here, Denene.
I'm
and
thrilled.
super pleased to be
Yes.
on your show. What an appropriate name for you and the show.
Yes, right?
Yes.
It's true. Yeah, that is true. It is. I made it up, but it's very appropriate. So what's a belief about growth, success, or even the hustle that you've personally had to unlearn over the years?
I would say it's belief and habit, because a big part of my career was built in corporate America. And that's a totally different grind.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes, it
And
is.
so I was a workaholic through and absolutely addicted to the hustle. And so, there's a huge difference between the employee mindset and the entrepreneur mindset. And there's definitely a belief that drives us, right?
Yes.
From a standpoint of having a standard of excellence and excelling, conquering, and all of that.
Right.
But then there's also that hustle.
Right.
Where we're running a mile a minute and we love it. We are out to achieve and make the impossible possible.
Absolutely.
And so what I had to really pivot in my belief and in my habits was understanding that constant hustle, that constant grind didn't necessarily mean that I was making an impact.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you need to kind of shift that and get away from all that busy activity and really focus on results and outcome, and take a look at, at the end of the day, what do I want to feel good about having accomplished today? Yeah. Do I want to feel good about I accomplished 101 impossible tasks? Or did I do 3 incredible things that moved me 2 steps closer to my goal?
Right.
And so it was a shifting, right? And really me becoming not addicted to the hustle.
Yes.
Right? Because the moment that I wasn't grinding, the moment I didn't feel like I was in that hustle,
Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I'm still part of the hustle. It's just shifted to maybe a mambo or a nice little tango instead of just stuff.
What you're saying is so important to me. And as I'm listening to it, I'm saying, gosh, I have that issue. How did you do it?
Learning from the clients that I was helping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it probably took me about 3 years. So, I was at Ernst & Young for 22 years, before that at JP Morgan, right? So very corporate mindset.
Absolutely.
And it probably took me 3 years to shift from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset.
Okay.
And the energy and fluidity of what it means to own your own business, and what we talk about is owning your brilliance, and then choosing how you make that brilliance available, being very selective and understanding who your ideal customers are, and understanding where they hang out, and not just where you go to network with them, but also how they like to buy, what they're looking to purchase, and then showing up and creating that opportunity for them to buy from you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Interesting. So having worked with hundreds of under-resourced entrepreneurs, what are some key takeaways and issues that you see?
Yeah. And a lot of it, they share. There's some similarities around small business owners, especially those that are, in the midst of truly just starting out. And so number one is always capital. right?
Yes.
Either startup capital or
Yes.
growth capital. And so a lot of small businesses don't have the funding that they need to put in place
Absolutely.
to establish the stability and infrastructure they need to not just help them carry the day and meet the day-to-day needs of their customers, but they don't have the funding they need to achieve their long-term growth goals.
Got it.
So funding is number one. They also fall into the trap of, yes, they understand what they're great at, right? They understand the competitive advantages that they offer their clients, but they fall into the trap of trying to do it all themselves.
Yes.
Because, when you first launch your business, that business is your baby.
It is.
And you're very protective of your baby. You don't want anybody coming in and doing anything crazy with your baby or running away with your baby. And so if you reach out for investment capital or growth capital, that means that you're bringing in somebody who's going to essentially have a level of say in how your baby grows.
Yes.
And so they avoid that funding opportunity. And then they're very controlling if they do hire on staff. And so because in most instances, they didn't receive training on how to be a leader or how to be an entrepreneur, now they have this team of people that they may not understand how to guide and empower and set up for success. They can maybe delegate, maybe, if the trust and mutual respect has been built between them and their employees, but that delegation gets tricky. Right. And so they need to build the team, have the financial foundation in place, build the infrastructure, have the team in place, and then be able to educate and train that team on what it means to deliver on the commitments of the organization. A lot of times entrepreneurs will hire people to be employees, but they don't really share the vision of the organization. They don't sit down and help their employees and customers understand the mission and value around which that business has been structured. And then making sure that that passion is infused throughout the organization, that them as the vision bearer of the organization, they're able to live it every day. But then also that their employees have embraced it and that the customers have become, promoters of that business. Yeah.
And then when we think about some of the systemic or cultural barriers, especially for like women and BIPOC or maybe even immigrant entrepreneurs. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Now that's a little bit trickier, and it does go back to access of capital. Again,
right.
A lot of, when we're talking about BIPOC, our counterparts, right? They, not every one of them, but a lot of them have generational wealth that they can leverage to know what to do with it. That's the tricky part. Because I'm sure the first time you landed your $1 million contract, I remember the first time, we were competing for, responding to a proposal, an RFP. And we found out that if we landed the contract, it was $5 million. I straight up started tripping.
Right.
I told my husband, I'm going to go out and buy me a giraffe. He was appropriate. Yeah. My husband, he's a logical, reasonable, level-headed. I was shopping and figuring out how much giraffes cost. And you can get a good giraffe for $50,000 in New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
But for us, the systemic thing is, again, the access to capital and then know what to do with that money when you get it. So for us, because a lot of times we're not educated from a financial literacy standpoint, we land a huge contract.
Right.
And we not squander the money, but it's not leveraged for growth purposes.
Yes, I understand.
We will use it to pay bills, right? To keep the lights on, to pay the employees, and that's appropriate.
Sure.
But we have to have a relationship with capital to the extent that how do I leverage this to acquire more assets, right? Or create an additional revenue line for the business, right? Do I buy a piece of equipment? Do I hire someone that has a specialized skill that will attract more business to my company, right? Think in terms of that when we do have access to capital. And then there's the cultural expectations of who we are as people of color, right? We're never just doing one thing. We're never just running the business. I had an entrepreneur call me yesterday on the verge of tears because she's running this magnificent, really profitable organization, but she also has personal, family issues that she's trying to take care of. She's raising kids. She's taking care of her niece. She's doing things in the community, and she is just stretched way too thin. And so sometimes we, again, don't know how to build the community around us that we need.
Absolutely.
We're so busy being everything to everybody.
Sure.
We're not checking our circle.
Mhm.
We're not saying, okay, as I'm pouring into you, who's pouring into
To
me,
Absolutely.
right? And so that I don't become depleted, right?
Mhm.
As I pour into others, I'm being also replenished. And so we have different circles, right? We have our immediate inner circle, but we have a circle a step above us, maybe older, maybe more wealthier people, right? That we can go and sit at the seat of wisdom and resource that can set us up for the next great thing and help us understand that this huge challenge that we're facing has been conquered so many times before, and it's absolutely achievable, right? And so that's the whole cultural barrier that we have to address. And then the third part is the representation and trust, the way people look at us as people of color as an entrepreneur. A lot of times they're surprised that we own our own business.
Exactly.
And then there's concerns around trust.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And what's your track record? And then have we built the level of credibility that speaks for us before we even get in the room?
Right. And then whoever you're speaking to, they're bringing that bias, right? So if the bias is that they've not been around people of different lived experiences, whatever bias they have, they bring that into the room. And it's happened to me many times. And, I tell the people I mentor, you have to convince people that you're worthy of this. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what advice would you give other entrepreneurs, say, to best guide them on issues like finance, legal, and risk management?
So from a finance standpoint, and I had this conversation with an entrepreneur that's going through the Columbia CU Grow program. What a lot of, again, entrepreneurs of color, men, women, whoever, right? What we fail to do is really learn how to maximize profitability. And we will set a price without checking what's the going rate.
Right.
What are the ranges for this particular service and product?
Absolutely.
And then once we set the price, we never raise it again.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we need to really understand what it means to maximize profitability, have different categories of services and products and clientele. And so all customers are not created equal. Some will make you work harder, right? Then only want to pay you 50 cents.
Right.
And so what do you do and how do you manage those customers? Well, those customers, they get an additional, maybe surcharge or increase because if they're spending up a lot of your time creating a lot of rework, right? And then we talk about scope creep. You may land a great contract, right? That is $50 million or whatever it may be. And then you get hit on the back.
Absolutely.
Now they want you to carry certain levels of insurance that you never had to carry before. They want you to pick up different levels of responsibilities that's outside of your area, right? Of expertise. And so again, it's having an eye at what do I need to maximize profitability because not all money is good money.
Absolutely.
And so you need to really understand what the budget is. From a legal standpoint, don't cut corners, right? That's an opportunity from a legal standpoint to build a great relationship, especially with young lawyers. People that I would go with some people want to get the most experience and you can have that type of lawyer for bigger issues. But if you get a up and coming lawyer that has something to prove, they're more open to listening to you and researching and getting the advice. So you have different levels of legal counsel and you set aside a budget for that so that when you need legal Zoom and different, apps and options that are really great. Chat GPT, you can go and find out the basic understanding so that when you do go and meet with the lawyer, you are better informed to have a great conversation with them for that $500 an hour or $650 or whatever it is that they're charging you. But don't cut corners with legal representatives.
I agree with you.
And then understand your industry around risk.
Yes.
Right? So that you have, number one, a business continuity or contingency plan in place. We learned that through COVID. A lot of small business owners did not have a business continuity plan.
Did not.
The what if. What if I'm flooded? What if the power goes off? What if there's a new pandemic, right? So you need to understand how to run your business in multiple and different ways. In person, virtually, right? And or through other subcontractors. Okay. You've got to have that backup. I had a session yesterday that we do for NMSDC, and one of our business CBC business advisors went into labor. We had like 100 entrepreneurs participating virtually from across the country. And she was assigned to 20 entrepreneurs. And now suddenly that morning is when she told me she went into labor. And that's a beautiful thing. She has a beautiful little girl. And I always have a contingency plan in place because a couple of things. I can never afford to make her feel bad about lifing.
No,
that's life. And so because I'm invested in having a long-term, healthy, mutually beneficial relationship with her, I can't afford for any of our subcontractors to feel guilty about going to Japan or getting married or having a baby. But I have 3 or 4 backups for every, issue. And so that risk management is important, and creating a business continuity plan helps you get there.
And I find that sometimes entrepreneurs can be casual about that. I mean, I got the contract. I'm so excited. I have some, I say to them, why don't you have business liability insurance? Well, I'll get to it when no, it's all sweet until it's not. You know what I mean? And then, and when it's not, all of a sudden you get a different flavor.
You didn't even understand they knew those words.
Right, exactly. You get a different flavor.
Yes.
So what do you think, what are some issues and takeaways that are different for like a service versus a product business?
Yeah. And so service businesses are a little bit more tricky because they don't have a tangible, they don't have a physical product that they're selling. They're selling an expertise.
Yes, they are.
And in selling that expertise, what they struggle is really more so around time capacity.
Right.
Especially if they're great at what they do. And so they need to understand that business can't rise and fall.
Right.
Primarily on just that owner. And they need to cultivate, right? So we have the founder's original expertise, but they need to be able to cultivate other expertise around them and educate their customers on, well, if I'm not available, there's 3 other people on my team that can deliver on that commitment. So there's no worries there.
Absolutely.
And then also make sure that they get credit for how phenomenal the service is that they've provided.
Yes.
Because it can absolutely go unseen and or easily replicated by somebody else. Someone else can come in and poach this magnificent idea or service, right?
Absolutely.
And so then in terms of a product base where someone has, a hard, tangible product that they're selling, they need to protect it.
Right.
And so they need to either get it copywritten or
patent. That's true.
Right, a patent, right? And then make sure, again, we go back to the capital, right? Have enough capital in place where you have the ability to produce it, right? Scale up and scale down. Because if somebody is buying a tangible product from you, they're going to immediately think that you can either provide them with 5 of them or 5,000 of them.
Absolutely.
And the moment that you can't meet that need, it compromises your credibility in the business world.
It's interesting, thinking back about service business. One of the things you said to me on my first retreat was, for the service business, your labor is so important.
Yes.
The human capital. And I was like, yeah, sure. But oh my gosh. I mean, it is so important.
Absolutely.
Every employee you hire, everything you do, it is important in a service business.
Yes.
Because what you're selling isn't tangible. Yeah. If you have someone representing you and they don't understand how you want to be represented, stuff like work ethic and all those types of things.
Them. And the client feels it.
All right. So listen, let's talk a little bit about this building this blue ocean and best practices,
this is
right?
My new big thing.
I'm excited about it. When you told me, I want to know, right?
Yeah.
So given the issues you mentioned and your years of working with entrepreneurs, let's talk a little bit more about this blue ocean strategy and that it can be a game changer, both for established entrepreneurs like myself and those just starting. So talk to me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Blue Ocean is a book that came out in 2010, and I became familiar with it about 2 years ago because I went back to school. I want to ultimately get my doctorate in entrepreneurship, and one of the things they talked to us about was Blue Ocean. I was like, what is this Blue Ocean situation? And I feel like the Lord has really gifted me with the ability that when I hear something that's going to have a great impact, I just zero in on it.
Okay.
And so Blue Ocean, number one, isn't for everyone, right? So when you're first starting out, It talks about the difference. The blue ocean talks about the difference between the red ocean and the blue ocean.
Mhm.
It's transformational. It's not about a pivot, but it's understanding and recognizing that your business has gotten to a certain level of maturity in the market. And the market that you're typically competing in is a red ocean. So red ocean market is the traditional market, is governed by certain principles in each industry. And all of those businesses that reside in that industry, they compete around certain standards of excellence, right? In order to dominate that industry or dominate that market. And that's appropriate when you first start out because you're trying to become the best at what you do, right?
Absolutely.
You haven't even fully figured out what your business is all about. So starting out in the red ocean is where you cut your teeth. But once you hit your stride, and especially if you get to a place where you feel like you're plateaued, then now you really are ready for blue ocean experience.
Okay.
And what the blue ocean does is that it invites the entrepreneur or the business leader, if they're working in corporate America, is to really explore a new level of innovation that has nothing to do with competitors. And it requires them to look at, okay, I'm in this industry, I'm providing this service or this product to this particular set of customers, but am I missing a bigger opportunity? And what made me fall in love with the blue ocean, they talk about zeroing in on non-customers. There's 3 tiers of non-customers, right? So there's the yet to be customer that they're looking just for an excuse to buy the product, maybe at a better price point. They're aware, of the product, but for whatever reason, they're not purchasing it, right? And then they look at the second tier of customer that there is a hurdle that the customer won't buy the product because of a particular perceived challenge, around the product. And then the third tier is the never customer. They're not at least interested. And so we use this, I guess, around like sports, and we look at golf, right? The everyday customer is the avid golfer. They love golfing. They will go golfing every day. Not that those customers are not valuable to you, but they engage in business around a set parameter of what it means to golf.
Got it.
And then the not yet golfer is an athlete, right? But they just may prefer basketball. They may not see the love for the sport, right? And then, you gradually go out, right? To the final sector of customer that I have absolutely no interest of ever playing golf. Albert Einstein said that golfing was a great way to ruin a walk in the park. So that's the furthest tier out. And then you look at commonalities around the ones that love it to death and the ones that will never have anything to do with it. And you begin to line up those factors. And then what emerges is a new innovation opportunity.
Got it.
And some of the examples that they give you in the book, the most common example they give is around this wine that's called Yellowtail.
Right.
It came out of Australia.
Right.
And so when they used blue ocean, what they did is they recognized that there were a lot of people that weren't drinking wine because of the perception that non-wine drinkers had around what it meant to drink wine.
Okay.
And then they began to market to the non-wine drinkers, and they just made wine drinking fun.
Got you.
Right. And they eliminated all of those barriers. And it's just a phenomenal process that I've been using. Now I have a new cohort that just came out. We do a program for NMSDC called the Center of Excellence Program. And that is a traditional capacity building program that's set up around the 8 drivers of growth. And we leverage the strategic growth plan. And you're familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
We use that in the Columbia program. And that's very helpful to help entrepreneurs who are currently generating anywhere from 5 to 10 million to move up to possibly a $30 million company. We've had great success for that. NMSD came back to us and said, this program that you've been running for 7 years is great. We need the next level. And I loved that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I just so happened had just come across Blue Ocean. I was actually pitching Blue Ocean concept for 2 years. I was trying to find the right customers. And then NMSD said, hey, let's do it. So we created COECP 2.0, and it's built around the Blue Ocean model. We kicked it off in May. right? With 45 entrepreneurs
Okay.
trying to get to $50 million. From May until now, they've landed 9 contracts,
Wow.
formed 3 strategic partnerships, and we have 2 of them that's launching a new product or service. And I
Interesting.
have this one young lady, I say she's a legacy owner. She owns a restaurant out in Ohio or somewhere. She called me on the phone. She says, Willie Mae, all of my friends who are also entrepreneurs right now are shook. Like with what's going on in the
Yes.
economy,
Oh,
right?
really.
Everything has changed. Things have shut down because of tariff this, anti-DEI efforts. And she said, I feel so guilty because I'm in this program and I'm launching a new product and my business is taking off.
Yeah.
And she was just like, thank you so much for helping me understand this blue ocean thing.
Interesting.
Because I would be sitting here terrified, like and see, in economies like this, what the really wealthy people count on
Is
this whole chaos leadership.
Yes.
It's a strategy.
Okay.
It's a strategy to make you so fearful, right? Because every day there's something new and crazy.
Right.
And your mind is the logic making machine. It needs to be able to logically figure that out.
Yes.
And when your brain is bombarded by chaos, like we have been, right?
Yes.
It becomes, because your amygdala begins to go into overdrive, and the amygdala is part of your brain. It's the fear factor. So once your amygdala feels like it's not safe, you can't come up with innovation. You can't think beyond this new crazy situation, right? And that's what the really wealthy and diabolical are counting on. That for us as small business owners, we're going to shut up, sit down, and stay out the way until things stabilize.
Got you. So question for you. I mean, for those people that are not lucky 45, what's some basic stuff they can start to do to start to interact with this idea, this blue ocean strategy?
Okay. So the thing that I will say, number one, you want to go out and get the book, right?
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the person that wrote the book. You want to go out and get the book and read the book. And then, I mean, if you really want to get started, you can always join NMSDC, and get in the next cohort and be in that cohort. The cohort is 5 months.
Oh, wow.
Right. So yeah, they're getting ready to graduate in October.
And it'll start again in
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're hitting some really great numbers around it. Wells Fargo right now is the sponsor for the program.
Okay.
And so it'll go based on who's the next sponsor.
And so it's for entrepreneurs that have doing between 5 and 10 million and want to get to
Well, you have to, in order to attend that program, you have to, number one, be certified by NMSDC.
Right.
And there's a big conversation now because with anti-DEI in place and, people are getting away and going away from diversity, do we still need to be certified? And my response is absolutely yes.
Absolutely.
Because there's still many people, especially in New York. I was on another program yesterday, and this amazing woman, her name is Carrie Torres. She works for DASNY. Right.
Okay.
You know Daphne.
Yes, I do.
So she shared this incredible story that after everything first happened and when everything was announced that we are anti-D, and she went in and she worked with her boss and she said, oh, that doesn't apply to us in New York because the state is still very committed to diverse suppliers. And so while the language and verbiage may be adjusted because we don't want to attract despicable people to what we're doing, the verbiage may have changed, but the passion and commitment remains.
Right.
And so, yes, you want to remain certified because those people who are still in places of influence, power, and decision, they're looking for us.
Absolutely.
And what certification does, whether you get NMSDC or you get certified by the state or whatever, right, WeBank, whatever certification you choose to get, that tells them that you're a bona fide business, right? Structured appropriately, and you're ready to engage in a higher level of business. You've been vetted. So don't give up the certification by
certified. And what else do you have to be for this program? I'm very interested.
Yeah, you need to be certified through, in this particular case, to have access to the blue ocean that we're doing.
Okay.
You have to be certified through NMSDC.
Right.
Right. You need to be in business 5 or more years and generating consistently a profitable business. It could be low 6 million.
Okay.
With the goal to grow to a $50 million business and have the ability to commit the time.
Yes. Which is
so we meet right now, the way the curriculum is developed and structured, We meet probably twice a month, and it's always Tuesday.
Okay.
From being in
Yes, I
the
know.
Columbia program,
I
there's
know.
homework,
There's homework.
right? There's reading. There's only one book in this program.
Which is Blue Ocean.
Right, which is Blue Ocean.
Okay.
The other previous COECP program that I did, they have to read 3 books.
Okay.
For each level, and that's a 12-month program. Well, it was 18 months at Columbia.
So for those who can't get into the program or don't have the time or they don't have the first thing to do is read the book.
Yeah.
And then what do they do? Do they take the exercises in the books? What do they?
Well, if they read the book, then they want to give themselves 30 to probably 90 days to really master the Blue Ocean value innovation. And so with week 1, you're going to go through a process where you want to audit, right, your current offerings of products or services, right? And then map the where you are right now, right? And then look at where you ultimately want to go, right? Okay. Future casting. And then you want to probably interview your customers, right? And really find out what they're completely happy and satisfied with and what they may also wish that you provided that you're not providing. And kind of look at why you aren't providing it to see and identify opportunities, right? Or missed opportunities for growth. And then with the Blue Ocean model, they look at or invite you to eliminate, right? Eliminate, reduce, replace, right? Or what is the C? Cultivate, right? New solutions. And then you test and validate, where you are, where you're going. And then you revise whatever your vision is for implementing your Blue Ocean. You can do that anywhere from 30, I would say 30, 60, the longest 90 days, but you really need to be consistently, and that's what the program does, because it creates the support you need, because now you're talking to other, entrepreneurs. The call to action for them is because Wells Fargo is the sponsor for the program. They are already now creating their investor pitches where they're creating new products and services. They're demoing their Blue Ocean strategic canvas is the ultimate tool. And now they're getting in front of potential investors, pitching and asking for funding for either launching this new product or extending this new service. And when you put people in that situation, now it's real for them.
What keeps some entrepreneurs in the red ocean?
Well, number one, comfort. I was in the red ocean for a long time. I liked what I was doing. I was good at it. It had a rhythm to it. I didn't really, all that hard grinding part was gone. And I had an incredible business network that I was vibing with. So comfort, number one. I'm making enough money. I'm not, you tell yourself, I'm not greedy. I don't need to make billions and billions. Right. This is enough because I've got a balance between the business and my family. So that's part of what keeps them in the red ocean. And then the other part is the fear, right? The fear of failure. And also sometimes the fear of success. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially people of color, we're really community-based people. We have a level of connection. And there is a real unspoken fear that I don't want to leave my tribe behind, right? I don't want to evolve to such a degree that now the people that I'm comfortable with are now no longer comfortable with me. And they start saying, oh, you really think you're something, or you've changed. This money and success has changed. We are concerned about those types of comments.
Sure. What is the one thing that a founder can do today to begin identifying these uncontested market space?
You have to be courageous and look at why people aren't buying from you. And that puts you into a position of vulnerability, right? Do I really want to have that conversation? And can I have that conversation and truly hear it, right? It's a level of sensitivity, especially if you've got this phenomenal product that it's really good. And all of a sudden somebody either tells you, well, I'm going to go move on to another vendor. It's easier for us to make that person evil.
Right.
And to say and look at, well, obviously something has changed in the marketplace. And I need to up my game. Especially the longer you're doing what you're doing, you just get very comfortable and you would rather substantiate, right? And justify why it needs to stay the same rather than evolve. And then we put up with. We do a lot of, because I also think the nature of who we are, we survive everything.
We do. We do.
So when somebody moves on, it's like, I'll just give me another one.
Right, exactly.
Right. I'll just, or I'll just adjust and do with a little less. We have that ability to flex in ways that other people would think, I'm not doing that. Why would I do that? Why would I take less? I need more. And we're not necessarily always geared for, I need more.
Absolutely.
Right. But we have to recognize that if your customers start leaving you or people begin to reject you that used to embrace you before in the marketplace, that's an indicator that you need to look at the industry differently. Something has shifted and you need to, figure out how do I adjust to remain relevant in the red ocean, or do I innovate, right? And create a new seat, right? Create my own table.
Absolutely.
Where I can dictate how I share my brilliance with others.
That's interesting. Amazing insights. I want to talk a little bit about when strategy meets the hustle, right? What have you found as the best way to help your clients grow?
That's an interesting question. So one of the best ways I feel is that people learn best when they're in a peer learning environment. If it all has to come from me, it's a problem. So I'll have some customers say, I want to do a one-on-one. I do not do one-on-ones because I know the power is in tapping into, and I know you've heard me say this before, tapping into the collective genius, right, of your team, whether it's people reporting to you or of the network that you've built. If all of the ideas come from you, that's never good.
No.
Yeah. So that's one of the ways that we help them by creating a peer interactive learning environment where there's a level of accountability and where you help them see a higher purpose in chasing that bigger goal. And I think back to the time we came in and we did the strategic planning event with you, and you were going through your strategic plan. And I saw the people around the table, and when you were listing what you wanted your financial goal to be.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're dealing with people who do not have an entrepreneur mindset, when they hear a financial goal, they interpret it differently. And I don't know if you remember that moment, but what I saw in the eyes of the people that were sitting around the table was it wasn't enough to have that financial goal. They had to have a bigger purpose attached to that revenue.
Yeah.
And I just kind of help repurpose the focus by saying you are pursuing that revenue, not just to get the money for the money's sake, but that so that you can influence policy in your industry. Do you remember that moment?
Yes.
That all the energy in the room changed. Because who wouldn't want to line up to be in a position of influence, right? To influence policy around everyone succeeding, or around only certain people succeeding.
Right.
So again, the revenue is never just about chasing that dollar.
It's about
that revenue opens up or expands your sphere of influence.
So what if a founder's overwhelmed, understaffed, what's the first move they should make?
They need to shut everything down and rest.
I love it. Yeah.
Right. This is what I had to tell the entrepreneur yesterday, because she was thinking about dropping out of the program.
Wow.
She's one of the entrepreneurs who's scheduled next week to do her BOVI investor pitch.
Okay.
And she just called me up on the verge of tears. It's just too much. And I don't want to, and all of what she said and what I heard was, I don't want to let anybody down.
Yeah, I know.
And I admire her courage in calling me. And I love the fact that she felt like she could call me.
Right.
And so I listened to her, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have these family challenges and business is booming. Her business is booming. And she wants to deliver on a commitment to the customers, but she is truly, clearly, based on what she said to me, really feeling at the end of herself.
And that can happen.
And I said, before you make a final decision, we're not going to give up on you.
Right.
So we can move the date for you to do this pitch. You don't have to do the pitch this Tuesday. And you will never let us down, because this program is about you. The program is about you and for you. Right. And while we have certain metrics around the success of this program, we can move this date so that it works better for you.
Got it.
But I asked her to please promise me. I hear what you have going on with your son. I hear what you have going on with your niece. We need to shut it down for 2 days.
Yes.
And you need to sleep, get as much water and relaxation as you can get, and then come back to it on Monday.
Okay.
And you need to invite other people in your life to step up.
Yes.
Because they've been watching you be phenomenal all these years. They've been watching you put it in for them all these years. this is an opportunity for you to give them the chance to make it happen for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all it takes is a conversation.
I agree.
We don't have to have a meltdown.
Let's just have a conversation, right?
We just have to have a conversation and say, and if they can't make it happen for you, then you look outside of your immediate circle, look up, right? At the people that are performing at a slightly higher level. They may well and would welcome the opportunity to reach down and help you. And then look at the younger people that you have been mentoring all this time.
How do you innovate with a small budget or no budget at all?
Well, we always start out with, if money was not an option, what would you do? Because it's usually an employee mindset that thinks in terms of money. Wealthy people don't think about how much this is going to cost. And in fact, for wealthy people, if they have to come out their pocket and pay for something, then it's a personal failure and reflection on the human capital in their network.
Wow.
Right?
That's true.
So if you don't have enough, if you've got to always come out your pocket, you're dealing or you're operating from a poor person mindset, because that's what we're taught. We're taught you got to pay for everything. That's not true. There's a lot of people who are retired, number one, veterans, number two, young people excited and wanting to learn and be part of something bigger than themselves that you're not leveraging.
That's true.
And so you can either reach out to college, right? They all have career centers that are looking to connect college students with real business opportunities. You have to go and get to know the people and build a relationship with them so that you can get the right college intern or even a high school intern. Absolutely. I was talking to an entrepreneur yesterday, again, part of the Columbia CU Grow program, and he said, I can't afford to hire anybody. And I said, well, I have another friend. She's an entrepreneur. She has a construction firm that helps high school students get ready for careers in the trade of construction, plumbing, and the like. They're high school students. You have a construction business. These students would love to be able to come in and help you with your construction business.
You know, it's funny that and on the reverse, I have a SCORE advisor that I've had since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, and he has been an advocate for me. Don't mess with Denene. And totally different backgrounds we've come from. So those resources are available.
Yeah. And you can build a cooperative around
Yes, you can. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if I do and I create business accelerators, then in my cooperative, I'm going to want to have a friend, an entrepreneur friend that has a marketing business.
Right.
I'm going to want to have another entrepreneur friend that has a CPA firm. I want to have another entrepreneur friend that is in finance or banking or some such thing as that. Yep. You build a cooperative around, and then you trade in services. Now, they do a service for you. You do a
digital marketing.
Right. You do a service for them.
Absolutely.
Right.
So what is the one lesson from experience you think every founder should hear, especially maybe those that are just starting?
I think that you have to know your areas of weakness.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
I think that you have to be courageous enough to look at what you're not good at. And then you have to also know what your triggers are. And you have to be able to build partnerships with people that are not afraid of speaking the truth to you.
Yeah.
And people that will say to you, I love you, you're great, but you're being mean right now. And you hurt that person's feeling, or you're not delegating to the right people on your team. You're only delegating to the people that you like and trust. And there's a whole area, a whole team of people that feel like you don't value them. If I had stayed in corporate America, I would have never learned my weaknesses. Because, when you're in corporate America, they're worried about getting sued. And if you're a person of color, they're not going to tell you what your weaknesses are because they think that you're going to sue them for being racist, right? And maybe you just can't hear them because you think anything critical is about you being a woman or this color of your skin. But it wasn't until I started running my own business that I was really, truly exposed to my areas of weakness, my areas of anger and rage and impatience, right? My habit of leaving people behind, and instead of allowing them to catch up to my pace of work.
Yeah.
And I think that as an entrepreneur, that's because then you don't lose yourself.
What do you mean?
It's easy to lose yourself, especially once you start having success. Like once you get to the place where you start and realize that everything you touch turns to gold because you've mastered your area of expertise. Like making money, landing contracts, bringing in business has become cake to you, right? And you can easily, the whole gritfully that we're talking about, we talk about being grateful, right? Being grateful and having grace. And when you don't cultivate that, you end up with a P. Diddy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
This
I agree.
this dude got all this power and influence and started doing despicable things to people. Well, maybe he started out despicable. I don't know him personally. I don't know.
No.
But when you start getting that level of influence and power where things rise and fall on the desire to keep you happy, you can lose yourself.
Yes, you can. That's true.
And I know that I've worked with entrepreneurs. When I first met them, they were, making $15 million. The next moment they're making $80 million and they're on the magazine cover of Fortune magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time I see them, they're talking about possibly bringing me in to do training to them. And when I speak to their people say, oh no, we're on the verge of bankruptcy.
Wow.
This dude has lost his mind and,
Wow.
and boats and gold toilets. And we can't make payroll in here.
Yeah.
Like he has no money to spend on training. Don't listen to him.
Okay.
So how do you go from 15 million to 80 million on the cover of Fortune to now you're on the verge of bankruptcy and started with nothing? There's a reason that happens a lot.
Okay.
A lot more than we know, because you don't have people in your circle that are comfortable with speaking truth to power and influence, right? They themselves are also getting caught up in the hype.
Well, I don't have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. They themselves, and it becomes a money, gravy train. They don't want that gravy train to end.
No, it's true. But I mean, my SBA advisor, he'll give me a whooping in a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, oh my God, I'm afraid to call him. He's going to, but it keeps me grounded. But, that's good, interesting perspective. So my other question, I guess, for you is, what does a gritful execution mean to you? Like, how do you help people turn strategy into like sustainable habits?
Yeah, I think that you need to start simple and smart. And be clear, you do it in time frames, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So if you're trying to establish a business, right, maybe even dominate an industry, you have to start simple and be smart about it and then progress, right? And learn from each level and continue to invest in the business. So when you do land that big customer, you're strategic about how you're leveraging that revenue to set yourself up for the next great thing. And, there's people, they want to make it big really fast, right? But with anything that burns you out.
Absolutely.
Right. And oftentimes will rob you of the joy of why you started the business.
That's true.
So start small, be smart, and scale, right? You're always testing your scaling ability.
Yes.
So if you start out and you have the ability to serve 100 customers, a day, a month, or however it works, then you figure out, how can I serve and meet the needs of 200 more economically? Am I leveraging technology correctly? Am I collaborating and forming strategic partnerships, right? That ensures that my people don't burn out and I don't lose my best employees, right? Yeah. Am I taking care of my customers? Am I taking care of the people delivering on the commitments, right? And am I taking care of myself? So be smart, be simple about your approach, the solution or product that you're providing, and then be strategic so that you're scaling in increments.
Absolutely.
Right? And incorporating the right technology as you go along.
So listen, for anyone who's stuck, burnt out, or unsure of what to do next, this last section is for you. Let's say someone's stuck on their journey as a business owner. What's one small step they can make this week to shift that strategy?
Well, I'm going to go back to the blue ocean model.
Yeah,
and
that. Read the book.
Yeah. So the strategy that they have is that first you eliminate, right? You eliminate everything that is in your way of being great, right? You decide how you want to make your brilliance available to the world, who you want to make it available to. And then you start by eliminating anything that is standing in your way or costing you too much or compromising your ability to maximize profitability.
Okay.
Right. And then what I had to do coming from corporate America to owning my own business, I was used to, when I was in corporate America running training programs, I used the very best materials. I had a budget.
That's true.
And I was able to get glossy stuff.
That's true.
And such not, But when I started dealing with different customers, they didn't have that level of budget. Right. So I needed to scale back Use the best possible quality. So eliminate what's
mhm.
absolutely not necessary.
Okay.
Then you want to reduce, right? What you used to take, I had to tell a gentleman yesterday that did a program, you're used to working, once again, in corporate America. Corporate America requires you to take 15 steps when 3 steps will do. You got it. Yeah. And so you're
You have to
used to
do.
taking 15 steps. So we're going to eliminate and then we're going to reduce. We're going to
Right.
reduce the cycle time, the effort that it takes to meet the needs of the customers without compromising the experience, right? The interaction between you. And then you raise the thing that you know is going to make that customer fall in love with your product or service, right?
Mhm.
You look at what is the absolute best thing or aspect about this product and service that they truly love. And then you raise the quality or the experience around that. And then C is create, right? So you either create, innovate, introduce a new element that no one else has, that no one else is doing. And when you go and read in the Blue Ocean, another example that they give, in addition to what Yellowtail did with wine, Cirque du Soleil looked at the best aspect of what the circus provided and the best access of what high theater did. And they took the best of both worlds and they created a new thing. So that's another example of Blue Ocean. So Blue Ocean, it's a new term, but it's something that Henry Ford did when he introduced the 6-cylinder car, right?
Okay.
It's something that Southwest did when they came up with
That's
a
true.
new way to meet flight demands.
Yeah.
So again, it's innovate. It's not a pivot. What you're doing is you're creating something completely new because you see the pain points of your customers and you decided to be that person that's going to make that difference for them.
So how can people learn more and follow your work or work with you? I mean, working with you directly or in demand.
LinkedIn with me.
Okay. Okay.
On LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Willie Mae Veasy.
I know.
And we have our website, CBC.
Yes, you do.
Which you Covenant Business Concept. So you can go to our website. So in terms of the type of customers that I work with, I prefer collaboration. So I always like to work with large corporations that have some level of relationship with higher education. So a lot of our projects, if you look, it's in conjunction with Columbia and somebody else.
That's right.
Rutgers and NMSDC. I love those different worlds. I like bringing together corporations, not-for-profits, higher education, because everybody comes to that table with their A game.
Yes, they do.
When you work only with a not-for-profit, they get stuck in not-for-profit thinking.
Absolutely.
When you work only with corporations, they get stuck with only corporation thinking.
Right.
But when you bring all of those elements together, it's the same thing with people. If we sat at a table and you had an Italian, you had a Black person, you had an Asian person, all different diversity, right? What they bring to that table is the best of who they are.
Absolutely.
Because they want to be valued and appreciated. And that's what industries do too.
Well, I tell you, I was lucky enough to work with you, and that's how we met. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me in the 18 months that we worked together.
Thank you.
Yeah, to the extent that I've always stayed in touch with you.
Yes.
And I've always wanted to work with you. So as an entrepreneur that benefited from the accelerator program, I think it's important. And I think those that are listening, if they've not been lucky enough to be part of an accelerator program, they should definitely look into it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's so many of them.
There's so many out there.
Right.
So don't go this alone. You mentioned WeBank.
Yes.
You want to join an organization if you're a woman, business, entrepreneur. WeBank is a great fit for many, many people. I was certified with WeBank once when I first started.
Right.
And I derived great value for them. Right. My preference is NMSDC because of their history.
Yes.
NMSDC has been in this fight from the very beginning. For I think over 70 years or so, they've been here. And so if NMSDC, the African American Chamber of Commerce, organizations like that go away, people of color, we will truly, truly suffer. I mean, we will find alternatives. But these are the people who are standing strong and making sure that people don't forget us. And so that's why I continue.
From my standpoint, I mean, I think I've been lucky enough to participate in at least 3 or 4 accelerators.
Yes.
So, I mean, I encourage people, I did Goldman Sachs, right? And I did the one with you all. Yeah. And then I also did the one with Ascend, Northwestern. But you learn something from each one, so you don't have to kind of get tied into that.
And so the thing I do want to give a plug in New York. So if you're a New York entrepreneur, Terrence Clark, he's the president and judge
Yes.
of the New York, New Jersey
Yes.
Council.
Right.
They're right here in Manhattan, I think not
Yes.
from here.
Yes.
And so they're great. Dora Reddick and
Yes.
all of them, great group of people
Yes.
to get connected. Because what those organizations did, or at least they did for me, is it saved me from chasing my tail.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are going to talk to you like they can do business with you. But when you go to NMSDC events or the New York, New Jersey Council events, you have people in the room that will tell you who has the budget, who's serious about helping diverse
Yes.
suppliers.
Absolutely.
And you need, to be able to get
focused.
all of those people, have access
Absolutely.
to those people
Absolutely.
so that you can build a profitable business.
Yes. Well, listen, thank you, Willie Mae, for sharing your wisdom and energy with us today. I feel so blessed. For all of our listeners, remember, resilience is not about pushing harder. It's about pushing smarter. And the blue ocean is out there if you're willing to get clear, get strategic, and build with intention, right?
Mhm.
So until next time, stay gritful. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. And don't forget to like, follow, and connect with us. You can find us on Instagram at Gritfully or at Zebra Strategies, and LinkedIn or Facebook by searching Zebra Strategies or Denene Rodney. You can also visit us at zebrastrategies.com. You can follow me on Instagram at DJR Wonderlust or TikTok at Denene Rodney. The purpose of Gritfully is to help entrepreneurs have a easier journey than I did, and also to let you know that there are resources out there to help you and to understand other perspectives and other wisdom, right? And in the words of my Jamaican grandmother, walk good. Thank you.